Have you seen the news that's rocked the world? On June 21st, 2025, the United States launched a strategic military operation against 3 nuclear facilities in Iran. Could this be the spark that ignites a global crisis? Why did this happen? And what's coming next? Stick with me until the end to unpack every detail and find out how this could impact you, no matter where you are. If you think this news is critical, hit that like button now, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell to catch all our upcoming videos. Before we dive in, let's be clear. The world is at a pivotal moment, and what happens in the coming days could shape our future. Let's get started. The context. How we got here. To understand this attack, we need to step back and trace the tangled web of tensions that led us here. Iran and Israel have been locked in a bitter rivalry for decades, fueled by mutual distrust and regional power struggles. Iran supports groups like Hezbollah in Lebanon and Hamas in Gaza, which Israel views as existential threats. Meanwhile, Israel has conducted covert operations against Iran's nuclear program for years. From cyber attacks like the Stuxnet virus in 2010 to targeted assassinations of Iranian nuclear scientists, but 2025 has pushed things to a breaking point. On June 13, 2025, Israel launched a strike on Iran's Natanz nuclear facility, claiming it was necessary to prevent Tehran from developing advanced nuclear technology that could be weaponized. Iran retaliated with a barrage of missiles, targeting Israeli cities like Tel Aviv and Haifa, causing material damage and escalating tensions. This back and forth already had the world on edge, with global leaders urging restraint. Then, on June 21st, the United States entered the fray with an unprecedented military operation. President Donald Trump announced that U.S. forces had struck 3 key Iranian nuclear facilities: Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan. According to Trump, the goal was clear: to halt Iran's nuclear program, which he considers a threat to global security. But what exactly is this nuclear program, and why does it spark such fear? Iran's nuclear program, energy, or weapon? Let's break it down simply. Iran's nuclear program is like brewing an ultra-potent coffee. They take uranium, a raw material, and enrich it to a level that can power nuclear reactors. Or, as the US and Israel fear, create a nuclear bomb. This process happens in specialized facilities, and the 3 targeted in the attack are critical. A fortress-like facility buried deep inside a mountain, designed to be nearly impervious to attack. It's a symbol of Iran's defiance against sanctions and external pressure. Natanz, Iran's largest uranium enrichment plant, capable of producing significant amounts of nuclear material, has been hit before, including by Israel in 2021. Isfahan, a nuclear research center that supports Iran's technological advancements. Though less prominent, it's a strategic linchpin. The US and Israel's fear is that Iran could enrich uranium to 90%, the threshold needed for a nuclear weapon. According to the International Atomic Energy Agency, by May 2025, Iran had already enriched uranium to 60%, a worrying milestone. Iran insists its program is peaceful, aimed at generating electricity and advancing medical research. But global distrust, fueled by decades of sanctions and tensions, has created a climate of paranoia. Is Iran truly pursuing a nuclear weapon, or is it a victim of an international pressure campaign? This question lies at the heart of the crisis. The June 21st operation. Details of the strike now. Let's talk about how this attack unfolded. On June 21st, 2025, the US deployed B-2 Spirit stealth bombers, nicknamed the Ninjas of the Sky for their ability to evade radar detection. These planes dropped powerful bunker-buster bombs, designed to penetrate fortified underground facilities like Fordo, which is buried under meters of rock. According to Pentagon sources, the operation was surgical, aimed at minimizing collateral damage. In a post on Truth Social, Trump hailed the mission as a complete success, claiming the 3 facilities were neutralized and that all aircraft returned safely, even called for peace, stating, "We've sent a clear message, but now it's time for dialogue." Iran, however, tells a different story. The Iranian government labeled the attack a grave act of aggression and a violation of international law, They claim there's no evidence of nuclear contamination, but they've restricted access to the affected sites, fueling speculation. Have the facilities been completely destroyed or only partially damaged? It's like someone smashing your house and you saying, "Everything's fine," but no one can check if the walls are cracked. Until international inspectors, like those from the UN, can assess the damage. The world remains in suspense. Immediate reactions, cheers and condemnation. The attack has sparked a firestorm of reactions, both within the US and globally. In Israel, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu praised Trump, declaring that the operation will reshape the history of the Middle East and bolster regional security. But in the US, not everyone is on board. Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna slammed Trump for acting without congressional approval, calling it a breach of the Constitution. Meanwhile, Republican Senator Lindsey Graham backed the strike, arguing it was the only way to stop Iran before it's too late. Globally, reactions are equally divided. The European Union, led by France and Germany, expressed deep concern and urged all parties to avoid escalation. China, a key economic partner of Iran, condemned the attack as an act of U.S. hegemony and pledged diplomatic support to Tehran. Russia accused the U.S. of destabilizing the region but stopped. Short of announcing concrete measures, these divisions reflect a fractured world, where each power pursues its own agenda. Can global leaders unite to prevent a larger crisis, or will their rivalries fan the flames? Risk factors. Why this could spiral? Why does this attack have the potential to trigger a global crisis? Let's break down 5 key factors that could turn this incident into a broader conflict. 1. Global alliances. A delicate balance herein is not isolated. It's part of a strategic axis with Russia and China. Russia has supplied Iran with advanced air defense systems like the S-300 and has vetoed UN sanctions to protect Tehran. China, Iran's largest oil buyer, relies on Tehran to diversify its energy sources amid tensions with the West. On the other side, the US is backed by Israel and NATO, which includes heavyweights like the UK and France, as well as regional allies like Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. Picture this. Iran retaliates by striking US bases in Iraq or targeting Israel. Israel responds with massive airstrikes, and the US is drawn into direct conflict. NATO could invoke its collective defense clause, while Russia and China ramp up support for Iran, perhaps with arms shipments or cyber attacks on Western infrastructure. Could this clash of alliances spark a full-scale war? And if the world's superpowers face off directly, how would they avoid a conflict no one can control? 2. Proxy groups. The wildcard Iran wields influence through a network of armed groups across the Middle East, known as proxies. Hezbollah in Lebanon boasts an arsenal of over 150,000 rockets and has proven its ability to strike Israel with precision. The Houthis in Yemen have disrupted global shipping routes in the Red Sea, driving up maritime transport costs by 20% in 2024. Other groups, like Shiite militias in Iraq, have attacked U.S. bases, killing soldiers in incidents like the one in 2020. If Iran unleashes these proxies in response to the attack, the conflict could spread like wildfire. For instance, a massive Hezbollah assault on Israel could ignite a war in Lebanon, while Houthi strikes on Saudi oil fields could cripple global energy markets. How would the US and its allies respond to a coordinated proxy offensive? And could they contain the escalation without being pulled into a regional war? 3. Economic fallout. Oil as a weapon Iran is a linchpin in the global energy market, producing nearly control 372 million barrels of oil per day. A conflict in the region could shut down the Strait of Hormuz, through which 20% of the world's oil flows. In 2019, tax attributed to Iran-backed groups on Saudi facilities caused oil prices to spike 15% overnight. A prolonged conflict could push prices to $200 per barrel, according to Goldman Sachs analysts. For countries like Brazil, this would mean skyrocketing fuel costs, inflation, and pressure on supply chains. For example, in 2022, the Ukraine war drove up fertilizer prices, hitting Brazilian farmers hard. A similar shock could raise food and consumer goods prices. Globally, an energy crisis could trigger recessions in oil-dependent economies like Japan or India. Are governments prepared to mitigate this impact? And how would financial markets react to the uncertainty? 4. Nuclear ambitions. The shadow of the Bomberan's nuclear program is at the core of this crisis. Since the U.S. withdrew from the 2015 nuclear deal, JCPOA, Iran has accelerated its uranium enrichment, nearing the threshold for a nuclear weapon. The June 21st attack could push Iran to double down, perhaps in secret facilities. In 2002, it was revealed that Iran had concealed nuclear activities for years, suggesting it may have hidden capabilities. If Iran feels cornered, it might rush toward a bomb as a deterrent, prompting preemptive strikes by Israel or the U.S. This could spiral into a catastrophic conflict, with the specter of nuclear weapons raising the stakes. What would the world do if Iran announces a nuclear breakthrough? And how do we prevent an arms race in an already volatile region? 5. Public opinion and domestic politics. The attack also has political ripple effects. In the U.S., Trump faces a 2026 election year, and this operation could be a bid to project strength. But if the conflict escalates and U.S. troops are killed, public opinion could turn against him, as it did during the Iraq War in 2003. In Iran, the attack could rally the population behind the regime, which has faced protests since 2022 over economic and social issues. An external enemy might be the perfect excuse to consolidate power globally. Polarization is rising. In Europe, populist movements could seize on the crisis to criticize NATO, while in developing nations, rising energy prices could fuel social unrest. How will public opinion shape leaders' decisions? Could domestic pressures push governments toward war or diplomacy? Future scenarios. From dialogue to disaster, what's next? Let's explore 3 possible paths forward, each with its own implications. 1. Best case scenario. Diplomacy takes hold in the best outcome. The attack serves as a wake-up call for negotiations. Mediators like Turkey, Qatar, or the UN bring the US, Iran, and Israel to the table. Iran agrees to international inspections in exchange for sanctions relief, while the US and Israel pledge no further strikes. This scenario echoes the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis, resolved through back-channel talks between the US and the Soviet Union. But this path requires compromise. Iran would need to pause its nuclear program, while the US would have to resist hawkish voices like Lindsey Graham pushing for more military action. Is a deal possible in a climate of distrust? And do mediators have enough clout to hold the line? 2. Middle ground scenario, a contained regional war in a middle scenario. Iran responds with limited strikes such as missiles on US bases in the Gulf or a Hezbollah attack on Israel. The US and Israel retaliate, but both sides avoid a loud war. The conflict remains confined to the Middle East. Its clashes in Lebanon, Syria, or the Persian Gulf. This resembles the Iran-Iraq War of the 1980s, which, while devastating, didn't go global. Even a regional conflict would have severe consequences. Oil prices could double, and key shipping routes like the Strait of Hormuz could close temporarily. Countries like Brazil would face inflation and supply shortages. Can global powers contain a regional war before it spreads? And what role would Russia and China play? 3. Worst-case scenario. A global firestorm in the worst scenario. The attack triggers a chain of retaliations no one can stop. Iran launches a massive assault on Israel and U.S. bases, while Hezbollah and the Houthis escalate attacks. Israel responds with airstrikes in Syria and Lebanon, and the U.S. deploys more troops. Russia and China provide Iran with advanced drones or cyber attacks on the West, while NATO mobilizes. The conflict spreads beyond the Middle East. This scenario recalls World War I, when a localized incident, the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, ignited a global war through interlocking alliances. A miscalculation like a stray missile hitting civilians could push the conflict toward unconventional weapons, including nuclear ones. How would the world recover from such a catastrophe? And what would a global conflict mean in an era of AI and advanced weaponry? Long-term projections, beyond the next few months, this attack could have lasting consequences, reshaping the Middle East. If Iran's nuclear program is crippled, countries like Saudi Arabia might pursue their own nuclear weapons, sparking a regional arms race. Shifting global energy. Oil shortages could accelerate the shift to renewables, but in the short term, producers like Russia and Venezuela would profit. Challenges for Brazil and Latin America. Prolonged inflation could worsen social inequalities, while supply chain disruptions could hit exporters like agribusiness. Erosion of global order. If the SE fails to mediate, the credibility of international institutions could collapse, ushering in a fragmented world dominated by regional powers. This attack has changed the game in the Middle East. It may have slowed Iran's nuclear ambitions, but it's also lit a fuse that could burn out of control. History shows crises can be resolved. The Cold War ended without a nuclear clash, but it also warns us, one wrong move can unleash chaos. So what do we do now? Is there a path to peace, or are we doomed to repeat past mistakes? I want to hear from you. Do you think this attack will lead to a bigger war, or is there hope for diplomacy? How do you see this conflict affecting your daily life? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm eager to spark a conversation. And if this breakdown opened your eyes, share this video with friends and family to get more people informed. Knowledge is power. To keep up with the big issues shaping our world, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, and join our community. In the next video, we'll dive into a related topic. For example, how could a global crisis impact our country's economy and future? Until then, stay tuned to the news, think critically, and let's hope the world chooses dialogue over destruction. See you in the next